Good news, everyone! There is now a new game that you can play on your Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bonanza has just dropped at the tail end of last week, and people like it. I think, maybe, potentially, Nintendo fans are gonna, eat up whatever Nintendo puts out at this point in time. And at this, honestly, people are already fed up with Mario Kart World because they made some changes that are not exactly all that well received so far. But people need to find interesting ways to justify their $500 purchase for a console that ostensibly might run old games better. So yeah, I guess just money well spent. I'm sure a lot of people are definitely not coping and seething over their really spur of the moment purchase. But towards the end of the year, I guess you get a new Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends ZA, which at least is a little bit different than the old stale Pokemon formula. And they're going to have a dedicated direct for that, I think the 22nd. So yeah, next to tomorrow, in fact, geez. But also, there's going to be another direct for the wider Switch platform later this month. And well, to be completely honest, man, Nintendo needs some good PR, because ever since the release of the Switch, they came out and said, oh yeah, fastest selling console, biggest console launch in history. But after that, haven't really heard too many updates. Every time that I go out to the store, wherever you can still go out there and buy video games and video game consoles, like the Switch 2 is still in stock. It is never in my neck of the woods. It could totally be different, right? Like, I live up here in the boonies in northern Alberta, okay? There's a lot of superfluous cash, okay? There's a lot of money flying around this place, but yeah, apparently the Switch 2 isn't quite successful up here. I've heard other accounts that, especially on launch day, in some of the bigger cities, they were few and far between. But outside of that, I think stock has been quite plentiful, mostly because nobody's really been incentivized to buy the damn thing. So hopefully this, direct that has been rumored will lay some groundwork through the end of the year and get people re-excited for this, because for whatever reason people thought that reveal, and what was that, April? Jeez Christ, man, 2025 is flying by. That half-assed reveal that I was totally underwhelmed by. I thought it was fine, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as Nintendo is capable of delivering. There was some stuff, well, even earlier this year, that was far more newsworthy, but I digress. According to Nate the Hate, yes, who has a track record of reporting on Nintendo Direct plans before they are announced, Nintendo's next show is planned for later this month following the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I've been told that there's a direct this month, the month of July, that is direct that will not take place until after Bonanza releases. Beyond that, no additional information, but yeah. The Pokemon-centric one, I'm pretty sure, is the 22nd of July. That one's been on the books for a minute, but Nintendo has a busy release schedule for the rest of 2025. Okay, little is known about the 26 plans. Pokemon Legends ZA, Metroid Prime 4, and Kirby Air Riders. So yeah, it could be more information, because I'm not entirely sure about the release date for Metroid Prime 4. A game that I remember when it was first revealed. God damn it, that was back when, I think, was it first revealed for the Wii U? Like, that shit has been out there forever. But yeah, it's very much looks like it's going to be happening, which is some great stuff, okay? Because as for plans for 2026, I mean, new games that are on the horizon. Well, FromSoft is working on an exclusive game, which is going to be quite Elden Ring Night Rain-esque, from what I hear. And it's like, I don't really know how many hardcore gamers, okay, hardcore FromSoft fans will be willing to buy a Switch 2 just to play that game. I'm not, there will be some, but don't really think it's going to be the system seller that Nintendo hopes that it's going to be. But Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits delay, the dev kit delay is impacting new game announcements, it's claimed. I mean, what? Okay, this is a console that we have known about for years at this point in time. It is something that people have been working on in earnest for, just as many years at this point in time. And you're still blaming late dev kits on your lack of content. I know this sounds wild given the very long lifespan of the original Switch, but was the Switch 2 launched a little bit too early? Did they jump the gun on this? Did they not have a proper plan in place? Really seems like it. Switch 2 is already out, and players are now wanting an announcement on new games for consoles. Recently, we learned the Direct is reportedly scheduled for later in July. Some sources have claimed that one reason for the delay could be the developers are not receiving Switch 2 dev kits. Spotted by The Gamer, the the latest podcast on Nate the Hate's YouTube channel. Okay, talks about challenges related to new game announcements for the Switch 2. It was pointed out that not only a third of the developers who have made games for the original Switch have received dev kits. I beg your pardon? That's crazy. The rest are still waiting for an update from Nintendo. Many of these developers wish to either enhance their Switch 1 titles for the Switch 2 or create new games for the latest console, but they're shit out of luck because, yeah, you can't work on the platform because, well, we don't have dev kits to deliver. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Okay. Well, apparently rethinking their game key or their key card strategy, or at least in Japan, because this has been quite a divisive prospect. Okay. One of the things that was announced, kind of the same way that the price point for the Switch 2 was announced back in April, was, oh yeah, you can still buy physical game cards. They'll look, they'll look identical to the Switch 1 cards. They'll just be red this time around. And yeah, if you plug them into your console, you have to download the rest of the game. But hey, no, you can definitely still have physical media that's there. Okay. And that was one of the things that really got into a lot of people's craw. It's like, okay, cool. If you still have to download a game, what the fuck is the point of physical media? And to be completely honest, I seen that be a much more divisive talking point than even the price point was. Price point for the console, not for like individual games or anything like that, because that is still egregious. But console at $500, I think, is a little bit more acceptable. It's a little bit more understandable. It's just $80 and $90 for games that are just otherwise minor upgrades in the form of Mario Kart World on top of 8 Deluxe, or for Donkey Kong Bonanza, which started its development in 2021 on the original Switch and then got moved over to the Switch 2. And knowing how long Metroid Prime 4 has been in development, like, it's still going to take quite a long time for there to be a game that has been developed from the ground up on Switch 2 hardware. Like, we are likely to wait a couple more years before that happens. And maybe by that time, they'll have something ironed out in regards to, yes, the game key cards. Since the Switch 2's launch, game key cards have attracted criticism from some for the fact that they contain no more than a digital activation key for game titles rather than any game data. The only difference between a game key card title and a digital download is the former can be resold and will work on other Switch 2 systems without the need for virtual game card lending. Interesting thing. Put a pin in that for a moment. So far, the vast majority of third-party Switch 2 games are game key cards, with a few exceptions reportedly, because only one size of card is available to developers, 64 gigabytes. Bro. Like, I don't buy that many new games. Like, it's been a minute, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, obviously. Even still, one game that is either on the way or is already released on the platform is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the PC port of that game is, what, 50 some odd gigabytes? And that was something that was released in 2020. So yeah, that's unforgivable. 64 gigs for developers, and especially we know what kind of unoptimized slop that most creators are putting out at this point in time. They need a little bit more wiggle room, and at this point, like, your flash memory cards that you can crank out for these stuff, like, that's laughable for a digital camera at this point in time. Now, a report by Switch Soku, Nintendo has sent Japanese players a survey to gauge their awareness of the game key card system and how it affects the way that they purchase their games. The survey first asks participants if they're aware of the game key cards, and then follows up by asking if the user is aware of the characteristics of game key cards, such as their requirement for players to download game data, and that the card must be inserted in order to play. Finally, the survey asked the participant if they would rather purchase a game key card or a digital download version of the same game, which is an interesting premise for the survey because, yeah, you need the game key. So, yeah, it's just an extra step to your digital download, but there are obviously workarounds. I don't know if any of them have been discovered yet, and I'm not even entirely sure if, Switch 2 emulation has been cracked yet, which I don't think it would be that long of a wait, knowing how quickly the turnaround on the original Switch was. But this second level of authentication does in fact pose more problems than it does solutions, because yeah, in order to play the game, that you bought and had to install, you have to put in the game card. Okay, but what happens if you want to sell that game? Okay, what if you want to lend it to a friend or something like that? But if you've activated it on your console and then your friend, by hook or by crook, manages to do the same, but then keep it on his console after you get it back, what's going to happen to those consoles, and how is Nintendo going to handle that sort of excess data out there in the ether? Well, it's apparently by slapping down on what they perceive as piracy and slop online. Nintendo rolls out new eShop publishing guidelines for Switch 2 in Asia, seemingly to curb spam games. It looks like Nintendo quietly cracked down on the eSlop for the Switch 2 launch. Yeah. In summation, many of the new guidelines discuss sensitive content and include specific rules for what qualifies as sensitive content. In the first place, a listed criteria that would be considered damaging to the Nintendo brand, including sexualization for children, or of children rather, overtly sexual content, discrimination, and hate exploitation of social issues, which, yeah, okay, this used to be covered under the Nintendo seal of approval back in the cut, but I guess they decided to, lift some of those restrictions in the digital era. But as vaguely as these terms are defined, yeah, the moment that Nintendo wants to crack down on something, they will just go ahead and do that. And how will they enforce it? Well, just by simply banning Switch 2s, because, like, what the hell are we doing out here? Okay, so yeah, to circle back around to the keycard discussion, Nintendo banned a Switch 2 owner after playing used games, but oh, don't worry guys, the reverse ban quickly after appeal. Oh yeah, don't worry, all of those terms of service clauses that are in there that'll just allow Nintendo to brick your system, it's in everybody's terms of service. I don't know why you're getting your panties in a bunch, okay? Why are you being so mean to Nintendo? It's not like they do that. Well, hey, look at that. It was just a mistake this first time. It's just a one-off issue. How long is it going to stay that way? In a recent cautionary tale for Nintendo enthusiasts, the Switch 2 owner found their new console temporarily banned from online services after playing legitimate secondhand game purchased via the Facebook Marketplace. The event showcases the stringent anti-piracy measures implemented in Nintendo's latest hardware, raising questions about the secondhand market's reliability for backwards compatible titles. Yeah, exactly. The Reddit user detailed their experience in a post on the Switch subreddit, explaining that they acquired 4 used Switch 1 game cartridges from the Facebook Marketplace. Upon inserting the cartridges into the Switch 2 and downloading the routine patches, the console was flagged and banned from Nintendo's online services. The restriction prevented access to downloads, multiplayer features, and other connected functionalities. The ban was triggered almost immediately, highlighting the console's advanced detection capabilities. So yeah, obviously it ends up getting reversed after he had to cause a stink, but he bought the games. He bought the games used, and that's totally fine. He has a copy. There used to be a point in time where, yeah, even if you dump the ROM that's on there, okay, you copy it to your computer to put it out for nefarious purposes, or to just, I don't know, potentially run it on higher end hardware so that you're not capped at sub 60 frame rates with laughable resolution. But I digress. You want to do whatever you want with, those pesky games that you bought and paid for yourself. You want to plod around to your heart's content. That's totally fine. Unless, of course, you're Nintendo, then you think that that's totally not fine, and you'll just go ahead and ban somebody that might have triggered something, and if they didn't cause a stink, if they didn't take to social media, if they didn't reach out because they did nothing wrong, you guys decided to get overly restrictive and overly reactionary with your enforcement policies, he would be sitting on a $500 plastic paperweight. But yeah, this could be a one-off. This could just simply be a glitch in the system. Now it'll just be fixed. We fixed the glitch. Maybe that'll be the case. But so many news stories have come out of Nintendo post the Switch launch, and they really aren't endearing themselves to the fans. They really aren't doing much to combat that perception. They're just a greedy company, inflated by their success with their previous console, taking that goodwill for granted. Gee, where have we seen this before? We into the Wii U, anybody? Oh, it's almost like if somebody called this back in the cut. Oh well, we'll just have to wait and see the next screw up and just how much sweeping all of these Nintendo bots are going to do for their beloved company. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.